Welcome back, dear listeners, to this emporium of information. A library, dare I dream, of exploration, magnificence, and sometimes beauty in such an uncertain time. I'm your host, Max Becker, and tonight we explore our city throughout. Through the luxury of radio transmission, we'll explore the deep, dark tunnels that lie beneath our feet, the overgrown and underkept buildings that lean outward over our heads, and the many darkly lit streets that the potion makers and inventors call home. Join me as I take your ears through these places, where sunlight and sanity alike cannot conquer or tame their personalities. All here on the Grand Azavin radio broadcast. And I welcome you back into the comfort of our nightly program. As the scrap metal plates of our city groan above the waves, what better a way to distract from their uncertainty than to hover your crystals over the fireplace and set the driftwood alight? Sit back, relax, pay for a little extra electricity so you can turn up the sound if you feel you deserve it, and allow me to entertain you. Now, I don't encourage you all to do this, as I know how sparingly we must use the power. Just earlier on today, I was reminded of this as I paid a visit to one of the ADVs, and while I must be wary of what I say about them, I think I'm allowed to say they could do with some care. Wouldn't you agree? Granted, I wasn't given the job of surface diver, but surely some wiring couldn't be too much hassle to retrieve. Anyway, I must get to the point. While I have great faith in our Grand Palace officials and city leaders, it is most unfortunate that the ADVs are frequently offline. Power fluctuations are expected, but these tall, thin, dark green cabinets that stand on every street corner are the only link we have to any Azavinian history and information. These things must be protected, as they are frequently vandalized by undergrounders in the night, most likely for parts for what I hope is repairs to the city. When approaching the ADVs, the first thing you notice is their impressive and modern design. Tall, thin, a screen sunken into the wooden panels, and below it, a keyboard made of recycled typewriter parts from the surface. When shown, your citizen brooch will allow you to access the information, and it activates after about 20 seconds, drawing any spare electricity it can from the smallest corners of the city to start its built-in generator. And from then on, you hope to the leaders that it'll work long enough for you to get the information you seek. Needless to say, I know quite a bit about the systems because I spend every afternoon looking at the headlines and weather tower feed before the show. My eyes often grow weary looking at the masses and masses of green text and data being received, but it is my pleasure to do so because it allows me to bring you our highly informational segments. But I digress, for I want to stress how crucial these cabinets are to our society, as I'm sure we couldn't imagine a city without them. They activate defense systems on streets and nearby houses. They provide for us a database full of history and other crucial information, and they cost nothing but confirmation. Anyway, the ADV was operational enough for me to gather what I sought, and thus I can move on to the weather. Now this is remarkable. In contrast to last week's storms and clouds, it seems we have a clear day ahead of us tomorrow. Actually, a remarkably clear day. Winds are of a slow speed and tides are to be low, so that's good news. The only threat I see is later on in the day there may be a few showers, but those will only affect the upper levels. So, some possible interference from my end tomorrow night, everyone, but certainly nothing too severe. And, that's about all I have for that, ladies and gentlemen. We certainly don't get such clear days at this time of year, so, you should probably go and make the most of it. Try and find Mr. Esquire if you can, because I've just seen he's added a new velvet ribbon to his hat. I saw it while walking down Burkett Road today, and I was simply awestruck. That deliciously rich maroon colour was a treat for my eyes when contrasted with the pitch blackness of the rest of the hat. A treat that was definitely welcome as I was on my way to the new restaurant, the Green Hollow, and for the record, the Green family have truly outdone themselves with this place. It is no secret that all of us are great repurposers, but the Greens have found a way to create supplies, support the collapsing walls of their said building, and even make it aesthetically pleasing all at once. You see, for those of you younger listeners, the building now used for the restaurant used to be an old mill. It mainly produced Azavinian bread and biscuits, but the family who owned it had to close the place after the city began breaking apart for the first time. So that gives you a good sense of how long ago this was. It was when I was, well, we needn't mention. This place was eventually abandoned and stood there until Mr. and Mrs. Green decided to plant different kinds of seeds from their collection on the ground floor of the building. And now, many years later, they've gutted it and here we are. It was most ingenious of them to do because you certainly can't mistake it for anything else. A totally hollow, white brick building with vines all over the face and multiple different trees growing out of the roof? Certainly not my grandmother's house. No. Although, actually, Mr. Esquire does have something similar in his hat house, but never mind. It is always an exciting event when something new arises in our glorious city, and this is no exception. Congratulations to the Greens, and now we must transfer into a short break before I get to the true meat of the show tonight. Make sure to stay tuned, because you really don't have any other choices.
It will make us strong and it takes a shout, hooray! It's good for growing babies and grown-ups to eat. For all the family's breakfast, you can see cream of wheat.
Get a can of Dr. Lyon's tooth powder today for a few cents at any drugstore. See what a surprise you get the first time you use it. We believe you'll never again return to ordinary, less effective ways of cleaning your teeth.
I am delighted to announce, listeners, that over the course of the break, we've received some exciting news about the ADVs. Apparently, some of the Grand Palace officials have tuned into the broadcast tonight and have issued an immediate response. Oh, that's why I so dearly love this city. For its inhabitants are a closely knit community of wanderers through the blue, its leaders a diverse community of listeners, and together we are a shining beacon of, let's just get on with it. Right. Dear Max, that's me, we are delighted to hear your loyalty, as always, to the city and our leadership. Such things are certainly appreciated by all members of the council. Oh, goodness, okay. Right. I'm writing to let you know that the Azavin Database Visualizers, or ADVs, are currently in the process of being refurbished. We are working with the best possible minds to create a new material that will be stronger than any previous metal or stone. Goodness. Meaning the wooden cabinets you are all so used to can be used for walkways on the most beaten-up streets. It is my pleasure to be able to announce this through your show, and it has been the stuff of rumor for a while now. Azavin can only progress, and with this new material, we can do so without always relying on retrieved items. We ask the citizens to ignore any other rumors regarding our experiments. Remember, your palace cares for you. Official Falsham. Oh, well, thank you ever so much, Mr. or Miss Folsham. That certainly has put any other doubts or ideas amongst the citizens to rest. Anyway, you heard it here first, citizens. The Grand Palace officials are always caring for us, looking out for our well-being and progression, as is evident by this exciting new news. The building itself is a proud achievement, standing tall and looking down upon the rest of the city from the very center, with its two iconic spires that we have yet to learn the meaning of. I pass by it once in a while and marvel at those yellow sandstone walls, knowing that we are listened to and guided. But I must stop myself before rambling too much. And with that, let's get on to our question of the week, sent in anonymously on a piece of paper. Been a while since someone's used these for everyday tasks. The question follows. Many speak of the legends, but yet the truth remains unknown. Do recall books exist? Well, you certainly picked an interesting time to pose that question, whoever you are. No need to say more. Recall books, in all realistic terms, and my opinion, are just as you have mentioned, legends. They don't exist, and I very much doubt they ever have. It's a playground story for children and nothing more. I'm honestly surprised you bothered to write me on the matter. While I must agree that these times are strange and many things are uncertain, I shall not partake in questioning the Grand Palace on such a matter. They have far too many concerns at this time, but if starting a discussion was more your intention, I'm sure we can do such a thing. Now, where to start? For any younger viewers tuning in tonight, I suppose I might as well set the scene with a bit of history. Well, recall books are mysterious things. Very few of us have ever supposedly seen one, because if they do exist, they're locked away inside of the Grand Palace Library. You see, they were first spoken of around the time of Azavin's construction. Stories and rumors tell the same tale, that these books can act as bridges to other places or even times. Of course, these are unreliable sources, none of which should truly be believed, although it is an interesting matter to speculate upon. Anyway, the story states that these books were first created by world leaders to transport them and their fellow officials to different places in case of an emergency or some kind of meeting. But that's pretty much where everything comes to a halt. Those that have claimed to have seen the books have either been unreliable when asked about details or leave the city shortly after. Others believe that such things can't exist because we haven't heard anything from surrounding cities in decades. But still, we need not ponder such things now. We must only forge ahead and continue to look towards a brighter day. And considering the existence of such things isn't how we do that. That's how you start thinking like... well, never mind. For now we must move on to the news. As per the usual, I'll make sure to tell you as much as I can about the following stories whenever new details or developments arise. And with that, here are the headlines. Firstly, a street performer has been getting a lot of attention recently on level H. He seems to stand in one spot, frozen throughout the day, and then disappears into thin air at night, fading away like a ghost. The local citizens were concerned that this might be one of the phantoms from below the city, so a full police investigation was launched and the roads closed. It was only today that the performer was found to be a projection coming from a little boy's bedroom window from across the street. The boy apologized to officers who put in over 100 hours and 2 dedicated investigation teams into solving the mystery. And speaking of mysteries, have you ever wondered why Zyla drinks those cold cups of Earl Grey outside of the cafe? Well, because the makers of it seem to have a secret ingredient that gives the drink more of a punch to those with older taste buds. What is it? Why is it only used in this one tea? Well, next week they'll be showing their patented blend of Earl Grey to the city in a cafe open day. Recycled biscuits and old teapots with mystery combinations of various teas shall be served from the main bar, as the owners reveal all in the bicycle parking area. That will be going on next Tuesday from 12 to 5 p.m. And finally, the Grand Palace has put into play their latest plan for sealing the underground. They have stated the work shall be finished within the next few months and will not be sealing in the residence entirely, just filling the secret tunnels that they have created to access the overground, so there are no further issues caused for our daily lives. This is certainly good news. At least, for us, of course. That's all for the headlines of today, and we'll be right back after this second intermission.
If you would like to send in a question to Max Becker, simply write on anything you can find and post it through the Azavin Radio Buildings letterbox. Please note, we no longer take second-hand shoes or children. This is not a nursery. Thank you.
Dr. Weir's mystery will be continued shortly. By the way, Doctor, is mystery your sole pleasure?
Young man, what could be more pleasant than mystery?
Well, music, for instance. That's
Music, why, of course. Have you ever heard my clanking of chains?
Doctor, I'm afraid you've got me wrong. I mean the kind of music men hum or whistle when they feel on top of the world. And, gentlemen, one of the many things that give you that tip-top feeling is the pleasure of being well-dressed. Perfect taste is a criterion, and in hats, there's nothing smarter than an Atom. From stem to stern, your Atom hat gives off that look of quality. You see quality in the carefully molded shape.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, it has come to my attention that throughout the program, we've been having a few more electrical issues than normal. On the odd occasion, we may get a few fizzles here or there, or even a slight cutout, but I'm being told that our level is having major power losses. We don't know what's causing them at this time, but I'm certain they will pass. After all, the generators beneath us are meant to last for another 50 years. The weather is clear, and it's a rather warm night, so I'm unsure of what it could be. Nevertheless, we can't be using up power when so much of it is required to keep other things operational, so I'm afraid this is where we're having to end the show tonight. I will be back tomorrow, as per the usual, same time, same frequency. But if there's one thing I must do, it's assist the officials in any way possible. I urge all of you on my level and nearby higher or lower ones to stay indoors and care for your friends, family, and house sharers. Thank you all once more for tuning in this evening, my dear listeners, and make sure you join us again tomorrow for the next Grand Azavin radio broadcast. Now, Spencer, let's see what's going on.